Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Unfound podcast channel on YouTube. I am Unfound's host, Ed Densel. Before I get started, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Please hit that little bell button that is on the YouTube screen, the YouTube page, so that when we upload videos such as this one, you will be alerted immediately. I hope you will also consider contributing to the program at patreon.com/unfound podcast. Let me straighten that up a little bit, straighten it. Or on PayPal, paypal.me/unfound podcast. And maybe check out our website, theunfoundpodcast.com. As the title suggests, this is a map analysis for the disappearance of Alicia Markovich. This is in no way to take the place of the episode that came out on November 5th, 2021. If you have not yet listened to that episode, I think it would probably be best to listen to that first and then watch this. Or maybe you're the type of person who wants to watch this first, then listen. I guess it depends on how you process information. Maybe some people even do them at like the same time. So I just don't know. But either way, I think it's best that people, when I do one of these map analysis videos, I think it really helps the understanding of any disappearance. Now, many disappearances we cover on the program. Doing a video for routes, destinations, maps, locations, not that helpful. But Alicia's and many others, of course, it's been, I think, very helpful. So let's get started. Just to show you where this is in relation to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is right there. And in fact, I grew up right up here in a little place called Leechburg, which is right up in here somewhere. So it just shows you how kind of close I was to all of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 4 important locations, and then I'm going to expound on maybe a couple of theories. I'm not going to necessarily theorize, but I know many of you have in your minds what you think happened. I'm going to give you some points to consider when thinking about your own personal theory. So down here, this is where Alicia lived with her, and I'm never sure, Alicia or Alicia, depends on the woman. Windber, Pennsylvania is where she went to high school. This is where Lori, our guest, was from as well. And I have to watch when I put my hand in front of there because it's on autofocus. But down there in the bottom right-hand corner is where Windber is. And that's where Alicia lived with her mother and her mother's boyfriend. So, and what this means, you're seeing that 1 hour and 15 minute. That is a drive from Windber the whole way up to Salzburg, and I'll be getting to that in a moment. But it is about 45 minutes from Windber to the next location. And where Alicia lived with her father is 100 Dunn Avenue, and you can see that right there in the middle of the screen. I'm going to zoom in quite a bit so you can see it. And you can see it's kind of, I guess what you would say, on the edge of town, not in the middle of town, but certainly within the city limits, not out in the middle of nowhere, certainly not on, like a farm or a lot of acreage or anything like that. But now I'm going to, there's 100 Dunn Avenue. That is not the exact address, but that is the street. So you will remember in the episode that in the past, Alicia had walked from where her father's place was down to some friends who lived on Noss Drive in a trailer park. And I'm going to show that to you now. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And so you can see that. And that is, so right here, I'm going to try not to mess up the camera. Right here, 100 Dunn Avenue right there. And Noss Avenue is down here toward the bottom left-hand part of the screen. And if you'd like to see how far that is, I will show you. There we go. That is, as you can see there, 5.1 miles. Actually, That's not correct. I'm going to put it in walking terms. There we go. 45 minutes. Let me zoom out. 45 minutes, 2.3 miles, as you can see in the middle of the screen. Not a crazy thought, but you should know that, as we talked about in the episode, as I did with Lori, that is a very busy highway that she's walking along. 22/119 right here with the little blue dots. Blue dots signify walking. If I were to change it to driving, it would be a solid blue line. So if you believe that she really did walk off, then we do have to consider the idea that, did somebody really pick her up? Somebody, maybe it didn't even have to be a stranger. Wouldn't have to have been a stranger. Somebody who was in the area who knew her from when she would go to see her father. Certainly possible. I'm also guessing back in 1987, making that walk, maybe she thought about calling her boyfriend. I'm sure that there was a payphone, remember those, between 100 Dunn Avenue and walking down there to Noss Drive, which is in the bottom left-hand corner of this picture. Surely possible. Maybe not the most likely choice, but certainly 119, Route 22 /Route 22, probably one of the busiest highways on the east side of Pittsburgh. Getting out there like an hour and a half away from Pittsburgh, a lot of cars. It is a 4-lane highway. So you have to think about that. Now, as far as Salzburg goes, let me type that in. That is way over here, and that's by walking, but let's go by driving. 26 minutes, 19 miles, that would be from the Noss Drive location. And you can see that on the screen. Salzburg, a little city, town that I used to go through all the time when I was going to drag race, and so I'm familiar with this town. Kiski Prep is there, some other things, and the reason I bring up Salzburg is because that is where Alicia's father's car was eventually found torched. So if we were to believe his story, the car was over on 100 Dunn Avenue, and somebody then drove it the whole way over to Salzburg and torched it. I don't think that was ever solved. It's still a question mark 34 years later, just like Alicia's, or 33 years later, technically, because it happened in 88. The disappearance happened in 87. Both are question marks over 3 decades later. I don't know if he got an insurance settlement. I have no idea. I don't know if he got a new Subaru or he went back to getting some older car. I don't know. Somebody probably knows. Somebody surely knows besides him. Lori didn't know. So those are the locations, starting with Winburn, moving up here to 100 Dunn Avenue, where she would have been, or allegedly was that day. Noss Drive is where some of her friends, her Blairsville friends, lived. And then way over here, Salzburg, 19.2 miles away, is where his car was found. My understanding is it was stolen and then appeared there fairly quickly. I do not believe it took days and weeks to find his car. I think it was fairly quickly. Now, we must think about a different theory. Let's say that her father is responsible for her disappearance. And so we must then start thinking about the idea that they really never went home that day. And so what that means, if he picked her up at 9:30 a.m., and then the next time anybody heard from him was when he called Alicia's mother at 1 in the morning, I'll just round that off. It's 12. That's 15 hours. We also have to remember that as far as we know, the neighbors did not see Alicia that day, did not see her father that day, did not see them come home. That does not mean it didn't happen. It certainly could have happened. And that's why in the summation for the episode, I talked a little bit about that, using it as a comparison, Chance Engelbert's disappearance. But if we are to believe that they didn't go home that day, And then he did not appear till, 1 in the morning. It's 15 hours of being out of contact, which means he could have driven, they could have gone 7 hours in any direction. Round trip being 15 hours, of course, halfway would be 7.5 hours. That opens up, I'm just going to zoom this out a little bit, and I hope the camera doesn't mess up. The state starts to get the area starts to get really big when you start thinking about that. Just to give you an idea, being that my father lives in Butler, which is basically over in this area of Pennsylvania, right above the word Salzburg, although Butler and Salzburg are not near each other, but it's right above the Salzburg word in that map. 7 hours, you can drive from my father's place to Charlotte, North Carolina in 7 hours. That's how far you can go in 7 hours. Because halfway, when I drive from Clearwater to Pennsylvania, halfway is before Charlotte, and it takes about 16 hours. So that's how I kind of figured that out. So halfway is like on the border of South Carolina. Halfway would be 8 hours. So 7 hours is about Charlotte. It's certainly into North Carolina somewhere. Just to give you an idea, you can drive from this area to New York City in less than 7 hours. You can drive from this area to Detroit in less than 7 hours. You can drive from here certainly down to Ocean City, Maryland, or way down here deep into Kentucky or Tennessee in 7 hours. Or if you want to go the opposite direction, you can make it to Canada in less than 7 hours. In fact, when we've gone fishing in Canada, now that the highways have changed up there, we can get to our fishing spot on Rice Lake from my dad's place 6.5 hours. You can even get farther than that if he had 7 hours to drive in one direction, if he had decided he was going to do something to Alicia. A lot of different directions. And so if you are of that belief, and you're going to take some of your free time to look into this, then remains of young women, female remains, you need to start looking. New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, Michigan, and Canada too. Tough. It gets difficult real fast. So that's also something to consider in this disappearance. So that is my map analysis for the disappearance of Alicia Markovich. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative. I, of course, hope you found the episode where I interviewed Alicia's best friend, Lori. I hope you found that informative. And I will talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.